All right, it's Friday, July 17th, 2026, about just after 5:30 of the a.m. You can hear traffic building here downtown Houston. I'm going to do a quick video on relationships. And, we use two things that I like to utilize in talking about relationships that make it easier, I believe, is number one, we need to focus on women's dual mating strategy. And it's clear, more I teach this or more I go over these cases and stuff like this, I'm teaching myself too. They always say, to teach something, you really got to know it because you have to explain it. And I'm learning as I teach, right? Because I had to explain it and stuff. So the dual mating strategy, before I was kind of, definitely alpha bang is always the way to go. Beta male provider side of dual mating strategies, not, maybe I would have been in the beginning not the most efficient or, not best practice. Now, oh heck no. Just stay away from beta male provider. It is, never going to be a winner. It is a loser. But I've learned, and it's not rocket science, but it's right in front of my face is, women break rules for alphas and women make rules for betas. Shout out Roll Tomasi. And it's their presence. So alpha bang is basically, if you're the alpha bang guy, a woman saying, I just need you. I just need your presence, and obviously your sexuality because I want your genes, but I need you because you are the alpha bang. I can't get you in anyone else, right? So that's what the woman is saying. Now, with the beta male provider, she's saying, okay, you're kind of cool, maybe attractive, maybe a nice guy, Hey, I remember when you got the 100 on the spelling bee and kind of was attracted to you in third grade. And, now you're in the chambers of commerce and you're perfect attendance at work. And okay, but I joke a little bit, but the point is that they find you cool. He's decent looking, average guy, whatever. He's not gonna make me look stupid, but hey, he's also got smarts and it's kind of funny and he's got a little cash. I can stay home. And surf the internet like Instagram and Facebook all day with my friends. But that's the other attraction, right? But you weren't cool enough just to be you, right? So, and the way I think about it now is, let's just say there's two of you, make it easy. Two of you, you're like alpha bang guy, and now let's say you're the beta male provider guy, and you're sitting on a couch. That alpha bang guy, she went, let's say doctor's office waiting room, right? The alpha bang guy, she's just like, how they call your name, like, hey, Bob, you're next, whatever. Well, that's like her coming out, and saying, hey, Bill, alpha bang, are you here for your appointment? He goes in, just him. But if you're the beta male provider guy in that waiting room at the doctor's office, okay, let's make his name Roger. Roger, I need your wallet. I need your, access to the country club membership. And the other guy just got to go back with nothing. Yeah, because he's alpha bang. You got to bring other things. So what happens when, you either can't bring that or she needs more or whatever. It's that it's not about you. It's about the things you brought. So anyway, so that's why there's lack of respect. Women will always respect the alpha bang guys, 100%. They know, women know, and beta's weakness, right? So let me talk about the case that I'm talking about today, right? So we all know alpha bang is the way to go, okay? And to figure out how to be alpha bang, got plenty of videos on my channel. Look at that, right? So anyway, the criminal case today is the Lorenzen Wright case. And Lorenzen Wright was a basketball player, a badass basketball player. I'm a sports guy, but I don't know all. It's a lot of guys that watch NBA probably know exactly who Lorenzen Wright is. Man, he's a killer. On the court, he was legit. A lot of guys, in sports they might have one good season, two good seasons, whatever. But no, he had. I think it was 16. I think he did 16 years. And he was 7th overall out of Memphis State University, I believe. He left college early. And he got drafted 7th overall. It was in 1996, I think. And he went to the LA Clippers and signed a couple $1 million contract, And over his career, I mean, I believe it was a 16-year career. I might be off a little bit, but I mean, double-digit career. I mean, that's big time. He was a center, but I believe his height was 6'11", so believe it or not, in the NBA, that's a little shorter for a center, but his speed and his athleticism was supposed to be, he was a rebounder. That was supposed to be his thing, coming and getting the rebound, real strong, fast, kind of guy, so, but anyway, he's in Memphis, and so he actually gets to make it back to Memphis. But so before, let's go back a little bit. But he ends up marrying his high school coach. I mean, he's obviously going to be a standout on the basketball court. So he ends up marrying his high school coach, his daughter. Married a high school coach. Sorry, a little activity going on over there. Anyway, he ends up marrying the daughter of his high school coach. And obviously the high school coach is going to like the, future NBA basketball player. And her name was Wright. And she'll be important here in the future. Wright was a very pretty, very, very pretty. And she's been told to have a very good personality. Guys that knew her said, or guys and ladies said she was very funny. Good personality, liked to have fun. But one of her downfalls was greed. She liked money, she's and she was not good with money. And apparently either was Lorenzen, Lorenzen was really happy to be with her. And that's kind of the thing, like Lorenzen, like a lot of people too, like a lot of guys especially, they don't understand their value, right? He's the $1 million basketball player, and he felt fortunate to be with Wright. She was pretty. She was like in college when he was in high school, so he was big man on campus, right? So he was happy to be with her, right? And so they met. He met her right out of high school, and they had a 13-year marriage. They had 7 kids, and unfortunately and tragically, they lost one child after 10 months to SIDS, and that really hit him hard. They hit Lorenzen hard. He was like Family Guy's father. I'll get back into awesome family man guy, in a minute. But he's the real deal. I mean, awesome basketball player, awesome athlete, family man type of the guy. So anyway, he gets into the NBA, and obviously, he's got the ladies, and but one thing, him and his wife, I mean, think about this, learning about Lorenzen, and knowing about the case, I learned about finances a little bit. Was, that in finances, doesn't matter how much money you make, the most important thing in finances is control spending, because Lorenzen, he ended up making like, I think over his career, he made like $55 million over his NBA career, and he spent it all. I mean, like, he's murdered, spoiler alert, but he's murdered. And right at his death, they were foreclosing on 2 of his homes. He had to sell 2 luxury cars. So having said that, I mean, $55 million, if they gave me $1 million, $2 million, I think we'd be good, right? But yeah, they gave him 55, and him and his wife and him spent it. He loved hot cars, and he loved ladies, I guess, allegedly. But anyway, but what ends up happening is, Wright ends up, being a conspirator to his murder. She set him up for murder. I mean, can you believe that? NBA basketball player. And this is the thing, guys. This is why, if you're chasing money, that's money, status. I know we can't focus on just one thing, or, looks, money, whatever. But I will say, how much money is enough to make a woman happy? And the answer is not enough. There's not enough, right? The woman that loves you for being alpha bang and being that presence in her life, and what I've come to learn, through my learning and teaching, and, think about it for yourself. But women do not love you. They don't. but they do love the way you make them feel. At first I was like, I don't like the way that sounds. I want to be loved. I want to be loved by a woman. No, I really don't care. If I love the way I make her feel, that's more powerful to a woman. Women are all about emotions, right? So if she loves the way I make her feel, then, and I've seen this in my best relationship, I've seen this, and the woman is so happy to see me. She gets an energy about her. That's intoxicating. So you can't go to the club, you can't go to girls' night, you don't have to say none of that, because, you mess up, the feeling you get when I'm around, and women do know this. Guys might be going, yeah, whatever, feeling. No, women know. When they're around certain women, women love to be around the men they like, because it feeds their energy, right? Men don't understand it as much, but women, trust me, that's why they can clown. That's why women can clown on beta males, because they don't do anything for their feelings. So let's say, and this is a good argument, and I won't break it too long, but if you're a beta male provider, she doesn't love the way you make her feel. She loves you, and we've all heard that. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. That's basically what they're saying. I don't love the way I'm not loving the way you make me feel. So that's the alpha bang. So anyway, and a lot of things are not like cut and dry. Like, oh, he's definitely alpha bang and he's definitely beta male. Because Lorenzen Wright, in all sense of purposes, is alpha as hell. I mean, his athletic ability, his strength, his size, and his personality, and his status in the community. I mean, he's a superstar. Charity gave back to the community in Memphis. He's a hero in Memphis. Unfortunately, because Wright, and here's the thing we need to learning lesson is, when you're a beta male provider, and when he stopped becoming useful, because he was broke now at the end of their marriage, and he wasn't useful to her anymore. And that's when he was more, and this is legit, it's not a cliche, he was worth more dead than alive. And so, because his life insurance policy was $1 million at that point, he had $0. After $55 million, he had $0. So they were bouncing checks. They couldn't buy anything. I mean, bill collectors were there all the time. I mean, they were foreclosing on their homes. I mean, and Wright, his wife, panicked and planned his murder and was successful for numerous years. And I don't want to say successful, but at her plan, at her devious, evil plan. And and one lesson to learn is, she's all on TV. Women, do not listen to what women say. Watch what they do, because she sounded so convincing, and no one wanted to believe her, because they loved each other. They really did. They were high school sweethearts. But she snapped. When the money dried up, and he wasn't useful to her. And that's same with all of us in a beta male provider relationship. When you're not useful to her anymore, you are going to be in trouble. You're going to be disrespected. You're going to be nagged. You're going to be cheated on. Those are the things that are going to happen. You're going to be filed on for divorce. You're going to lose, So, how do you prevent that? Because I'm here for solutions. Well, your preventive medicine, number one, is be bangable, right? Have leadership, and be the alpha bang guy in her life, because you want her to love the way that you make her feel. So you can't get that anywhere else but here, right? So be that guy. And if you're not that guy for the woman, then be on the lookout, for those behaviors when you start seeing it, So anyway, so yeah, when the money dried up, and what she did was, and and again, there were reports that, again, he's a famous, handsome basketball player, and he's seeing other ladies, I guess, but that's alleged. Okay, I don't know, but so what happens is he traded to Memphis Grizzlies to Atlanta Hawks, right? And I guess that after he finished playing, that's where he wanted to keep living in Atlanta, and Wright stayed with the kids in Memphis. Well, they had 2 attempts on his life, and planned by Shara and her co-conspirators. And they tried to do it in Atlanta in his house. It didn't work out. They called it off. But so what she did is she lured him back to Memphis she needed to talk about something. So his friend picked him up at the airport, takes him to his house. They say, "I'll see you later." And it was like 8 p.m. And he goes in. He says, "Hey, let me take care of this with my wife, or ex-wife, wife, whatever you want to say." and I'll call you later. Well, he never called. And everybody's like, what? Well, he's a rich guy, and rich guys like that, they sometimes take off to Las Vegas, Dubai, whatever. So for him to be going missing for a couple days wasn't a big deal, because he has access, right? But it went on for about 10 days. I think it was 10 days. And they're like, this ain't good, Well, what had happened was, Shara with two other guys, Billy Ray Turner, and I'll get into that a little bit, and Jimmy Martin. Billy Ray Turner and Jimmy Martin, I believe they're shooters. Billy Ray Turner is definitely a shooter, okay? And let's talk about women's sexual agency, okay? And, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I heard a dumb, I commented on it, or did a reaction video to it, and make this point. Women's most powerful agency is their sexuality, and women know this. The reason Billy Ray Turner, who was a deacon and a landscaping guy who was making a good living, decent living, was having sex with Shara Wright, Lorenzen's ex-wife, or they were separated, so it was legit, But she was having sex with them, and she knows, and people did say that she was very, very manipulating with her sexuality, because she's very sexy, and there's some women that can pull off sexy, like I just did Cherie Miller. When some women are just, they know how to, do the walk, the talk. They can get into a man's head sexually, right? But yeah, and she was that one. She knew how to, and she can't bonk Billy Ray Turner over the head, but she can become his, seductress. And you do this for me while she's sucking his D, and that is extremely powerful for a man. I'll do it for you, baby. I'll be your hero. So that was why he was involved. So sexual agency is extremely important. She was the leader of the co-conspiracy to murder her ex-husband, Lorenzen Wright. So he comes back from Atlanta to Memphis, and he had bought his mom a home. His mom's awesome. His mom was like a teenage mother with him. He's the oldest, and she loved him so much, dude. Like, she loved her Lorenzen, and rightfully so. And he bought her a house. He's one of those, like, the, living the dream, dude. We got to get to buy your mom a house that, she came from, very, modest, she was, just never had money. Was, her grandma raised Lorenzen, basically, because I think she had her as a teenager. But point is, as she grew up, her love for him was unreal, and she didn't let that investigation die into his murder. That's, so anyway, so he comes to Memphis, and so from his house, from his mansion in Memphis to where he meets up with Shara Wright, there's can't remember the street names, but anyway, cut off road or something, but it's basically the city ends or whatever, and it goes into this like rural area, and it's covered by trees. So if you're in this little stretch before his mom's house, and that's where he was going, I think, probably Share. We don't know exactly what happened because we weren't there, but we can guess. And so she has him, he took that road a lot. So, but Shara Wright knew how I guess isolating that road is. And so if you're in that area going to his mom's house, taking the shortcut, you're in trees, darkness, and it's at night, 10 o'clock at night or whatever, or closer to midnight, whatever. And so it's just you, and no one's going to hear you, right? And so I guess he gets ambushed by two guns. I think it's two guns, 11 shots. He's killed. He gets surprised, ambushed. And he actually made a 911 call, and it went to Germantown, Tennessee, which is a neighboring city to Memphis. And you can hear it. I mean, go watch the I'll link the 48 Hours episode in this description. But you hear him. I mean, he's screaming for help, and you hear 11 shots, pop, 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 pop. A wonderful NBA superstar, dude, a family man, loved his kids. 6 kids who just adored him. But that's the thing. Let's get a learning lesson here. Shara Wright didn't care. Women don't care if it's against their agenda. They don't care about their kids. They don't care about you. They don't care about nothing. And that's okay. We have to understand this. This is not talking bad about women. Women are solipsistic. They're going to look out for themselves first. But if you're a team member with them, they're going to look out for you too. So nothing bad about that. But understand this. They are paramount. So, so he goes into this rural area, and and so they drag him into the woods, whatever. And they can't find him for several days. They finally find him, but they were 9 days behind. And evidence is degrading and stuff like that. And so for years they didn't have a case. It's a cold case. They didn't have anybody. So it wasn't until Jimmy Martin, one of the co-conspirators, gets picked up on something. And Sarah Wright, the wife, his ex-wife, she's been on news. She wrote a book, just like Corey Richins, and there's been others that write these books, detailing a crime just like they apparently committed. Like that's the dumbest thing in the world. Wendy Adelson did it too, right? Although she hasn't been charged, but come on. Anyway, and what is it? Mr. Say Anything, or I think it's Mr. Say Anything she wrote or whatever. And the book is about a philandering NBA player, abusive NBA player. Anyway, I guess in the first episode he doesn't get murdered, but in the second book he's going to get murdered. So, oh, really? This was prior to her getting arrested. So, anyway, Mr. Tell Me Anything or something like that. Anyway, but Jimmy Martin gets arrested, so he's going to look for leverage with the cops, and obviously leverage with the cops is information. So Jimmy Martin's like, if you're the first with information, understand? Okay, this is not law advice, but if you get picked up in a crime and you had some friends with you, you got to be the first one that tattles. Just say, hey, because you're the one that's going to get the deal. All right, it's true. The first person to, the first person to spill the beans, because after you spill the beans, they don't need you anymore. So anyway, Jimmy Martin worked out a deal and said, yeah, I think he's going up for another murder case, and he's like, hey, if you work me a deal, I'll help you solve the Lorenzen White case. So, and being a police officer for 22 years with the Houston Police Department, you're like, dude, because you got to give up one. Because anyway, but he showed them where Billy Ray Turner and him went together, and they dumped the murder weapon into a lake. I think it was in Mississippi, and they dredged it up, and it was there. And I think it came from Lorenzen White's house. It was one of the ones he was having in his collection. So Shara Wright gave it to him, obviously. But so they're both, Jimmy Martin's taking on Shara Wright, and so all three of them get arrested. Shara Wright pleads to conspiracy to murder. She gets 30 years. And what's funny is, and this is another cautionary tale, is Shara Wright was beautiful. I mean, sexy. Peanut butter brown. She's peanut butter brown. She's sexy. However, go look at her booking photos. Oh, she is, I don't know what happened, but it ain't the same woman, dude. She hardcore change. But anyway, stress maybe, I don't know. But Shara Wright, she ends up, the reporter comes to do a story on the Lorenzen Wright case. When they were still in the middle of trying to solve the murders over several years, still a cold case. So he's going to do a report on it, and he ends up banging her and having a relationship with her and moving to my town here, Houston, Texas. And they have a several year relationship, and because, and once again, she needed a house, she needed a place to stay, so they lived together in Houston, and he said she was a really funny girl, she was a really sexy, smelled good, he said, and we like that, and but one of the things that made him break up is that there was a $200,000 check going to go to Lorenzen's dad, and Shara Wright was asked, her current, I think it was a boyfriend, he wasn't married to her, but she asked him, she said, hey, I want to get that $200,000 check that's about to go to Lorenzen's dad, what do you think I should do? And he said that's when he saw greed. He said that's when it clicked in him, because he was legitimately in love with her, and he didn't, he's like, no way. Again, the story you're telling yourself about any situation, he was telling himself that she was a good person, she didn't do this murder, and she's a grieving widow, and he said what he mistook as grief was guilt. Yeah. So be careful of the stories you're telling yourself. Another lesson, right? So once he saw that greed come out, he's like, I'm not going to let his father had that $200,000, because he was like, no, let his dad have it, and he can put it in a trust. The kids can use it. She's like, no, I want it. Going back to beta male provider stuff, when you have a woman that is seeking resources, right, and is very attracted to resources, all women are, but at different degrees. You don't want the one that's very attracted to resources like her, right? She was given after 14 months. After 14 months after Lorenzen's death, she got $1 million life insurance policy. Boom, handed her $1 million. It was gone in 10 months. She had spent it all. Cars, houses, luxury trips. Gone. Broke. In 10 months, she spent $1 million. That could have lasted the rest of her life if she would have invested it. I mean, that's the, that is, and that's why you have to have leadership. You can't have a woman spending all your money. She has to be under your leadership. That's why you got to be the alpha bang. She's not going to respect beta male provider, yeah, so right there tells you, Now, that was her, after she ends up going to Riverside after the reporter guy and her are in Houston, obviously we're together, and then he sees that she's greedy. They break up. She goes to Riverside, California, Shara Wright does, and she marries another guy, Tony Robinson. Once again, what do women do? I just showed this on another video of mine, Cherie Miller case, is they get with men and they marry beta males, right? The guy named Tony Robinson, he takes her in, takes her family in. Now she's living in California in another marriage, third marriage, Again, though, she can work the magic. Now, some women ain't going to be that lucky that don't know how to work that magic. She knows how to be sexy. She knows how to be flirty. She knows how to appeal to beta males, So anyway, yeah, so again, but then she's picked up and arrested. Now she's doing 30 years, so I think that marriage is over. Billy Ray Turner, I don't know what he got. I think he's going to probably be life conviction. I'll check on it. But, but yeah, it was those three. Basically, Shara Wright kind of admits to it, that. But one thing, and again, one important thing to learn is that how she didn't, during when it was a cold case. It was several years that they didn't have any suspect. It was dead in the water, right? And Shara Wright was basically saying that Lorenzen ended up, when he was needing money right before his death, he sold 2 luxury vehicles because he needed cash. So he, got a couple $100,000 for his cars, but he sold it to a guy in Memphis that was kind of linked to a big drug organization, right? He's also known in the community, whatever, but he was known to be a shady character. And so Shara Wright made it look like Lorenzen came into town, met with her, had some drugs with him, and then he was killed because he was going to do a huge drug deal with, probably some huge drug syndicate, right? So that was the narrative that was going on, and it dragged his name through the mud because he was a local hero in Memphis, and now all of a sudden he's hanging out with drug kingpins, and because he needed cash, he's going out to do a drug deal, and he's killed during a drug deal. Who's going to feel sorry for that? What kind of hero is that? That's what his ex-wife. That's the narrative she spun on him. So my point is that women will. I've said this before. It sometimes doesn't have to be your life that they kill. It's your reputation that they kill. And someone said in the piece, Lorenzen White didn't die one death. That he died 2. 1 was his life. 2 was his reputation in the community. And she did. She hammered him. He was known as a drug dealer, for several years. But he's not. He's an amazing man, that got ambushed by, a drug basically gold digging wife that, thought that his money and his resources were more important than he was. And that's why I do these videos for guys, is to let you guys know that if you're chasing the bag and that's that's your mating strategy, it's okay. I understand. We can all have different ways we want to do mating strategy, right? Maybe you're good at making money. So you're like, dude, I'm not good in the gym. I'm not really, not going to be the most handsome guy, but I know I can chase the bag. Okay, but understand, what costs that may come with. But if you're getting after it in the gym and your looks maxing and all that stuff, women want to see you. Women want to see you taking care of yourself. They don't necessarily need to see you, Arnold Schwarzenegger. But a guy who takes care of himself, dresses good, has clothes that fit, your hair's done, you're smelling good when you go outside the house, you're a social guy. That is a good-looking man. I mean, I'm just saying, as an archetype, right? So, that's kind of my point. Is like, it doesn't have to be like aesthetically. It's, and women are gonna appreciate that, and how could you not? Like, let's say, and real quick I'll end it, but, it's like the homeless guy could be better looking than, the homeless guy in the street could be better looking than a lot of guys, but he's homeless. He hadn't changed clothes in 6 months and hadn't taken a shower in 10. That's why he ain't as good. That's why you're better looking than him, But let's say he cleaned him up and, he may be better looking than you, whatever. But anyway, but it's true. That's obviously, at the other end of the scale type thing. But that's what we need to learn, guys, is that when you come to a relationship, when you come to women, you are the prize. Your presence, who you are, how you make her feel, the man that you are, your mindset, the way you take care of yourself, the way you look, sorry, the noise, but it'll go away real quick. But need to do these in the middle of the night. I see like there's people around the car. Anyway, I'm almost done. But you got to have that assertive mindset. You got to be a leader, make good decisions. That's the alpha male. And be bangable. That means get in the gym, eat good. Have an interesting life type thing. And women will not love you, but they will love the way you make them feel. And so that's Lorenzen Wright, true badass. $55 million wasn't enough for him. If you think, that's going to be the top 1%. If you're chasing that bag, so how much is enough? $55 million. That got Lorenzen ambushed. For some women, $100 million won't be enough. But Pookie and Ray Ray don't buy nothing. It's them that is valuable, and that's why a lot of beta males get mad about that stuff, right? But anyway, I think that's about all I got, guys. Just get out there and be the alpha bang guy. Do not be a beta male provider. Check out my other videos. Like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.